Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news as Antony declares his desperation to reunite with Erik ten Hag. Or does he, as Ajax potentially close shop on Manchester, well, not just Manchester United, any other transfer. Remember we were talking about this at lunchtime or this morning, that Ajax have sold so many players that they may not want to sell any others. Well, this is what happens when you spend most of the summer chasing a Jong deal and Ajax sell other players to other clubs. They may well close shop and say no one else is for sale. So interesting with Manchester United there. It could be a bridge too far, says Vino. It really could. Also, we've had an influx of, it's almost like a brief. I don't think there has been a brief, but we've had an influx of Hurst in the Times, Ducker in the Telegraph, Rob Dawson, Luckhurst. They've all been at it tonight. Not like that, but, you know, like in relation to transfer news. So we've got loads to go through. Absolutely loads to go through. But we're going to start off with Boohoo Man because they're sponsoring our Tuesday night show. I'm wearing my Boohoo Man jacket. It's cooled down now. It has been very hot today. I did have my Boohoo Man active stuff on. But it's cooled down nicely. I'm wearing my Boohoo Man active tracksuit top. And it's all about looking good and feeling great as the weather gets nicer. There's no better time to get yourself some brand new active wear. And because Boohoo Man are sponsoring the show, it means it's time for some Manchester United trivia. And again this week, we are seeing if you guys can guess which United player Boohoo Man are actively, Boohoo Man active, talking about from the below clues. So here we go. I was born in Nottingham. It's not me. I joined Manchester United on the 10th of January 1995. It's not me. I know who it is straight away. I made my debut on the 22nd of January 1995 in a home win against Blackburn where we won 1-0 with Eric Cantona scoring the only goal of the game. So it's not Cantona because he wasn't born in Nottingham. I have won 5 Premier Leagues, 2 FA Cups and a Champions League. I tell you what, that's good for your Wikipedia page. I ended my career in 2008 having played 509 games and scoring 229 goals. I also played for both Manchester clubs. Well, it's not Schmeichel because he didn't score 229 goals. Who am I? So get in the chat. I know who it is. I know who it is. I love this from Boohoo Man. I love it. I love it when it makes me feel knowledgeable. People are saying it's Roy Keane. Roy Keane wasn't born in Nottingham. He was bought from Nottingham. It's Andy Cole. And Shay is the first person who I saw get it in the chat. A lot of people said Roy Keane. It's amazing, isn't it? A lot of people said Roy Keane, and quite clearly this person scored nearly a goal every 2 games. And Roy Keane was born in Ireland. He wasn't born in Nottingham. So I think you've just fell into the Nottingham trap there. Of course, it's United legend Andy Cole. Well done to everyone that got that. Another quick question for you. Have Boohoo Man given the United Stand viewers a discount? And of course, the answer is yes. By scanning the QR code on the screen or by clicking the link in the description and using the code GOALBRIDGE, you get a huge 40% off at Boohoo Man, excluding certain sale items. So 40% off. Thank you so much to Boohoo Man for supporting today's show. And now we can move on with the stream. Big shout out to Boohoo Man. I'm wearing some of their stuff. You can get some for the summer. Get yourself kitted out for your holiday or your back garden with 40% off. Boohoo Man. Hold your phone up, scan the QR code, see if it works. The Irish lad from Nottingham, says Jim. I can't believe how many people went with Roy Keane, but brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So let's go. Have we lost Antony, says Zane? No. Right. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is, before I put up any tweets, you may not have seen this, you may have seen this. When Erik ten Hag left Ajax, a number of players did a goodbye farewell video. And basically in that video, Antony says, I stand with you and I'm here if you need me. So look, Ten Hag, Antony loves Ten Hag. Manchester United are working on a deal for Antony. I mean, this is no surprise for anybody. We've been talking about it on here for way before it hit the UK press, that it was genuine interest and he is a key target for Erik ten Hag. We'll talk about the difficulties of the deal in a moment, but Antony is desperate to reunite with Ten Hag and desperate to join Manchester United. This is a huge move for him. With all due respect to Ajax, this is a huge step up. It's the Premier League. He's desperate to play in the Premier League. He's desperate to play for Manchester United. And he's desperate to reunite with Erik ten Hag. So this is a player, in contrast to, well, I suppose Frankie de Jong, this is a player that's desperate to join Manchester United. And I was saying it on Twitter this afternoon that, you know what, Ronnie, welcome to the Members Club and welcome to Vinicius. Thank you very much for joining. I wasn't saying welcome to them on Twitter, but what I was saying is welcome to you. But what I was saying is that, I mean, who's the signing that excites you the most about Manchester United that we've been linked to at the moment? Because I get Frankie de Jong. I think he's really exciting. But the player that excites me the most is Antony. Maybe it's because he's an attacker. Maybe it's because he's so desperate to come and join us and hungry to do that. I think he's a really talented player with really, really big potential. And is he 22? I think, he's 3 years younger than De Jong. I think he's a really interesting player. Left-footed as well. We haven't got many of those. So for me, Antony is the most exciting deal for us to do. And I know United, but the obsession is De Jong. But there's a lot of, and I think most people will say that De Jong is the more exciting signing to do. What you're talking about, but for me personally, it might be controversial. Maybe it's not. But yeah, he is the player that I would be looking at. Anyway, so let's get through some of these stories that have come out this evening, just to give it a bit of verification for you. Manchester United... Oh, no, that's not the story I wanted to bring in. We'll come back to that one later. Ooh, bit of a spoiler. Manchester United's priorities in the transfer window are to improve the midfield and forward areas. Talks are underway with Ajax over the potential signing of the Brazilian winger Antony. So that's from Hurst Class, which is the Times. You've then got Manchester United have held talks over a potential move for the Ajax forward Antony, but are waiting for a breakthrough in negotiations with Barcelona for Frankie de Jong before advancing other signings. That's from The Telegraph, and that's James Ducker. And then you've got Rob Dawson, who I think Adam spoke about this afternoon. Antony is one of the key targets for Manchester United, and there is hope that a 40 million fee can be agreed with Ajax. Well, we had the story this morning that came out last night from Neil Custis talking about a 40 million signing. So you've got Neil Custis of The Sun, Manchester United correspondent for many years. You've got Rob Dawson, ESPN, who's been very good this summer. You've got James Ducker, who's always been, well in with the club, I suppose, in relation to good information. And you've got Hurst Class from The Times as well, again, who's, a Manchester United correspondent. So they're all, you could say it's a brief. I don't think it is necessarily a brief. Manchester United are in talks with Antony. Maybe the club have put it out there to some of their journalist friends to, get people excited or whatever. But I think that this is a deal that United now need to follow through and do. That's my observation on this. It's actually been going on for quite a while now. Ten Hag put Antony on his list from the start. 2 weeks ago, it was being rumoured in Brazil when he was in Brazil. When he's not now, he's on holiday, and we're back. People are going back to pre-season training next week and the week after. He needs his future sorting out. Manchester United need to advance a deal. And I know Ducker says in his article that Manchester United are waiting to see what happens with De Jong before they advance any other deals. Why? Are you telling us that you don't have 50 million for Antony? I don't really see the point in it now. I can't actually see the point in waiting to sign other players after De Jong. Just get on with the deal. What difference will it make? In fact, it'll make a positive difference because I'm not bothered whether De Jong's signed 4th or 5th or 1st. What I am bothered about is getting some players in and getting some buzz around the team that at the moment, when we play Brighton on the opening day, will be the same shower of shit that finished the season against Brighton a couple of months ago. So, look, let's start buying some players. And actually, as well, let me just read these super chats. Hi, Mark. Do you think Erik ten Hag knows well the transfer market? I'm worried a little that we're almost only going for his ex-players. I miss Rangnick. I would have loved Rangnick to stay NVI. Hi, Mark. Hope you've had a good day. Is the Antony signing 100% confirmed? Says Liam. Nope. And loving the content, mate, as always. And is there any new member badges in the future? Big respect to Marky. I think we're going to change them next month, mate. That's one that you've just member for 9 months. So, yeah, I think we are going to change them very, very soon. Yeah, we've not signed Antony. I don't know why people are talking like we've signed him. But as I was saying there, I think that Ajax very realistically can close shop. I was reading something today about Ajax, and I don't know whether I've got the... I should have the tweet to put it up, actually. I think it was from the Mirror. Let me just see if we've got it. Sure, I've got it. Okay, yeah, here we go. So this is from Mullock Mirror, who a lot of people think is well briefed and actually might be quite close to the Ten Hag circle, saying that Manchester United, it's likely that Ten Hag will have to choose between Lisandro Martinez and Antony unless United make Ajax an offer that is just too good to refuse. We're going to make... I'll tell you something for free. We're never going to make anybody an offer they can't refuse. That's not Manchester United. We don't do those things. So, yeah, we're not about to make an offer they can't refuse. But the interesting part about that story is I was reading some Dutch outlets today talking about Ajax, and they were saying that realistically, Ajax will not be selling players now unless they get massive offers because they've sold so many players. I think 4 or 5 players have gone. And this is an issue because when you do slow business, which is what we're doing, you can't. Maybe we wanted Timber and Antony, maybe we want Martinez and Antony, but you can't. We can no longer knock on the Ajax door and say, "Hi, remember me? I was your manager last year. Can we have a good deal?" No, because if you wanted these deals, why didn't you come and do these deals a month ago? Why are you coming to us when we're just going back into pre-season training and we've sold half our team? Why would we give you another? Why would we sell a couple of players to you? We've lost half our team. Why would we sell you a couple of players now? And if you want them, you better pay big money for them. So this is almost backfired a little bit, potentially, because the money we're trying to save on the De Jong deal... Now, listen to this. It's very important. The money we're trying to save on the De Jong deal, taking weeks and weeks, will probably be about 10 million. If we'd gone and got Timber and Antony a month ago, I guarantee we would have saved more than 10 million it's going to cost us if we get them now, because their prices have gone up. And I know this talk of a 40 million deal for Antony. I don't think Ajax want to sell him for any less than 55. So that's a £15 million difference, which is exactly the difference that we're arguing with De Jong about. So I'd love to be... I find these things fascinating. I would love to know the intricacies of United's strategic plan for transfers this summer, because where we look like we might save some money, I think we're going to lose it. Because Ajax are basically saying the shop is shut. The shop is shut, and they're there... And you can see them in the window and you're saying, please open the shop. No, look, the shop is shut. And then you're having to go, I'll pay big. And then you're just hoping they'll open up the window and they'll sell you something for a lot more than it's worth. So, yeah, it's a little bit of an issue. I do firmly believe that we'll get Antony because I think he really wants to do the deal. And I think Ajax want to do the deal with Antony. But, yeah, again, get on with it and do it because... As we were talking about this morning, that this De Jong deal, as boring as it is, could rumble on for a lot longer than the end of this week. It could go for another month. Personally, I think except for the centre of midfield, which has been awful for years, we should really prioritise right back. Shaw is fine as he's a confident player, says Lewis. It's all distraction. We all know this week would be busy with stories about being in talks with players. How can our team be in Ajax when Arnold said they was in Barca pushing De Jong, says Sean Turner. That 10 million saved was all for the Glazers on Friday, says Jay. And Mark, Spurs expressed an interest in Rashford. How dope would it be if we gave him and cashed in for Son? Ji-Sung Park suggested as much recently, says DFOs. Yeah, we're never going to get rid of Rashford. So, you know, whether that's a good point or not, we're never going to sell Rashford. We're trying to save 10 million, and if only we had an extra 11 million that wasn't going to the Glazers, says Mull. Well, look, I mean, I don't know what you think about that, by the way. If I said to you, let's do a poll on this, actually. Either or, you can only get one player out of Ajax because we've taken too long. And they've sold too many players. Who would you go with, Martinez or Antony? There's a poll going in the chat there. But it's Wednesday tomorrow. Slow Sports News. Yellow tie. Audi driver crunching up cornflakes in the morning. It's Wednesday morning tomorrow. And on Friday morning, the Glazers are getting £11 million. So Manchester United have got 48 hours to do something that's going to divert the United fans' attention away from the Glazers taking £11 million out of their club in the summer when no other Premier League club owner is doing it. I'm purposely letting that settle. Biggest summer we've had in years. We need every penny we can find, and our owners are taking £11 million out of this club in the middle of a transfer window where they've spent sod all yet, and no other club in the Premier League is taking £1 million out, and they're taking £11 million out. And that's the headline on Friday morning. So what's United's plan before then? Because you've got to have something positive. And I think I disagree with what James Ducker said, that we'll wait to do De Jong before we do any other deal. I think United have to do another deal. I think we have to do another deal before De Jong, because unless De Jong's getting announced on Thursday, watch this space, we've got to do something. And we have got to do something, not just because the Glazers are taking dividends out. I mean, I think that's appalling, but we've got to do something because this is the summer transfer window and we're trying to rebuild this team. This 120 million budget is a farce. The club is worth 4.5 billion. The Glazers need to let Ten Hag spend what he wants if they really want United back at the top, says Wayne Finnegan. Well, I'll talk about the budget in a little bit. Any updates on Eriksen, says Mojo. There was an update. Thank you very much. I mean, I wasn't going to talk about Eriksen, but there was an update that I've not heard anybody talk about. And I've not heard anyone talk about this. And it just dropped into my head because I read it earlier. Thomas Frank, the Brentford manager, nearly said the Brazilian manager in his dreams, the Brentford manager did a quote or did an interview and said that there's an agreement between him and Eriksen that he'll phone him up and tell him what he's going to do, and he's not heard anything from him at the moment. So he's on holiday and they're hopeful that he's going to stay. So that was an update I hadn't heard anywhere else. So he's still waiting his mind. My feeling is that I think there's a very good chance he'll sign for United, but I think if Spurs go in, he'll go to Spurs. I think that's what I feel. Keep it up, says King. Thank you very much for the super chat, pal. Thanks everyone who joins the members club, by the way, and please do subscribe. Bottom right hand corner. Watch what space on Thursday, says Reese. That space on the cupboard shelf. That empty space down there. You may as well watch that space down there. I always feel sorry for that space down there. The plan when we designed this studio was that we'd need more space for trophies, and that's why there's empty shelves there and empty shelves up there. But watch that empty space, because that's probably the only interesting thing that will happen. Ajax sold starters Anana, Mazare, Gravenberch, Haller. Antony's contract till 2025 will be very expensive, says Leno. Yes and no. Yes and no. Scott Harrison says, I think it's clear from the players we are in for that Erik ten Hag wants players he trusts around him because he knows how toxic the United dressing room is, says Scott Harrison. And I think Erik ten Hag is going to go for Antony and go for another centre-back like Pau Torres. He seems more intent on solving the right-wing problems than the centre-back issue, says Salah Ahmed. I think that the point about trust is really important. If I was going into that United dressing room, I'd have to have my head buried up my arse not to know that it's a very toxic environment. So I would try and surround myself with players that I can trust. Van der Beek's one. Antony, as you know, loves Ten Hag. So, you know, one or two others, De Jong, maybe one of the centre-backs. And you've got a nucleus of 4 players there that you basically keep the toxic players away and they work the way you want to work. And they'll be very important on the training ground as well because they get it. I think Ten Hag will be saying to Murta and Arnold, look, it's not just about signings, it's about pre-season. You giving me them the week before we play a game doesn't help me, because the first training session I have, if I've got an Ajax player, they can tell the other players what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. It just makes it easier if I've got a couple of players that know how I do it, so that the other players can follow. Because I don't know whether you've ever been in a PE class or, you know, any sort of class. The teacher can tell you what to do, but if someone in the class who's on your level knows what they're doing, they can help you in a different way. It will make the process quicker. So, but going back to there was a comment in there that was interesting about the 2025 contract for Antony. The Glazers should not take dividends in the summer transfer window. It's bad PR, says Ginger. I don't think they really care, do they? But it is bad PR. I do believe that Ajax want to cash in on Antony. And obviously they're going to want the most money they can get. But there's been stories around this for a while. They waited on David Neres and they didn't get the money that they thought they would get. And I feel if they wait on Antony, he'll do well to replicate the season he had last year. And even if he does replicate the season he had last year, he wouldn't. Playing for Ajax in the Eredivisie, £50 million is his ceiling. Because even if he plays really well next season, he's still doing it in the Eredivisie. It's not like he's doing it in the Prem for Everton and then his value will keep going up. So I think Ajax are fully aware that, all right, he's got a contract till 2025, but he's at his peak now in relation to value, and it's probably about time that they cashed in. And I think they will do, but I don't think they'll do it for cheap. What's going to happen with Ronaldo, says Marcus? I presume he'll come back. Do you think the second midfielder we supposedly want is just Eriksen, desperate for a cheaper partner for De Jong like Lema or Enzo Fernandez or Sangari, says James. James, you're a very well-educated man. I presume you're a man. You've just spent £5. Might be pocket money, I suppose. But yeah, I would love that. De Jong and Lema, Enzo Fernandez or Sangari, that's the sort. I mean, look, you've just named three players who were available for about 20 million quid. Sangari a little bit more, but I mean, imagine that. You got De Jong and Lema, or De Jong and Enzo Fernandez, or De Jong and Sangari. I'd be very, very happy with that. Forget De Jong, sign Antony, Torres, Eriksen, and a CDM, says David Kennedy. Yeah, well, we'll see. Look, I will say this about De Jong: it's a De Jong free zone. Apart from this. There was a story this afternoon, I don't know whether anybody saw it, and can I just say as well, I'm absolutely bored to death of the De Jong deal. I said it on Twitter just before I went live. The De Jong deal is advancing and is expected to happen in the next couple of days. Will be one Brazilian Barcelona outlet, and then an hour later, this deal between Barcelona and Manchester United is being held up because of the La Liga restrictions and could take another few weeks. Frankie de Jong doesn't want to come to Manchester United. Frankie de Jong is open to coming to Manchester United. Barcelona wants 100 million euros. Barcelona wants 80 million euros. It's just regurgitation street of the same bloody story. I'm bored of it. But Jay says, to be honest, Mark, maybe you are too optimistic. I don't think the Glazers care. No, they probably don't care, Jay. You're right. But there was a story this afternoon, and I wanted to just drop it into the show tonight, and I sort of understood it, but probably don't understand it. And basically, it was a story that Barcelona can't sell De Jong because of La Liga restrictions, and that's what's holding the deal up. And those La Liga restrictions are something to do with something called 1-3, where for every sale they make, they only get a third of they can only spend a third of it. So if they get 60 million for De Jong, they can only spend 20 million of it. And apparently these economical levers, of which Laporta has said they're going to announce a couple more, when they're in, La Liga will relieve them of the 1-3 thing or the 3-1 thing, and they'll go back to 1-1, which means that if they get 60 million on transfers, they can spend 60 million on transfers. Well, that would make a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense to me as to why it's taking so long, but you'd ask the question why United are getting wrapped up in something like that, and it doesn't explain why we can't agree a fee. But yeah, it's just a very messy deal, isn't it? If we get what we want in the end, then I think we'll all just forget about it very quickly. But the fun and excitement has gone out of this deal like it went out the Pogba deal and the Sancho deal, because it's gone on for way too long, and a leopard can't change its spots. Maybe there's a very unique set of circumstances as to why this deal has taken so long because of Barcelona's financial issues. But you know what? It's like the boy who cried wolf. United have been doing this for years. The Sancho deal took 2 summers. The Bruno deal took all of 1 summer into January. The Pogba deal took about 2 months. Even deals like Harry Maguire, which weren't that exciting, took about 7 weeks. So is it just coincidence that we've took bloody ages on De Jong? I don't know. Maybe it is something to do with Barcelona. But I tell you what, we better get him, because if we don't get him, it's so obviously full of pitfalls, like this financial thing because of Barcelona, the fact that De Jong doesn't really want to come. There's loads of red flags there, so we better make sure we get the deal done. Anyway, that's enough about De Jong. Has Ten Hag made it clear what plans he has for Garnacho, Pellistri, Ahmad and Hannibal? Samuel Luckers this evening, Tom, I saw a quote that said that Ahmad and Pellistri are not part of his first team plans, so we'll have to wait and see. I don't know how he can be making these decisions, by the way. I don't know how you can make decisions that Twan Sebi and Brandon Williams and Wan-Bissaka and Bailly can have a chance, and then Ahmad and Pellistri are not part of the first team plans when he's not even trained any of them. So who's he listening to? Because you got rid of Ranić and those coaches, so you're listening to Fletcher. I don't know. Enjoy all the shows. Has stopped me watching Slow Sports News. Keep on with the good job, and your team, fingers crossed for new signings soon, says Alan Noonan. Thank you very much, Alan. Hope you're well. And this deal for De Jong is taking so long that it will lose all excitement when it actually goes through, says Stephen. Well, look, we will be excited when he holds up the shirt, but it won't be as exciting as it could have been, because we are sapping the joy out of it. Anyway, we've spoken about Antony. Let's just close this poll, which I think still resides on the screen. Yes, so this story is coming in from Mullock Mirror, who is saying that Manchester United may need to choose between Antony and Martinez because they've left it so long to go and try signing Ajax players. Ajax have sold enough players and don't want to sell anybody else, so they'll only sell one. 83% of you would rather go for Antony. I would rather go for Antony as well. However, we will have to wait and see. For me, Antony's the most exciting signing of the summer. I know it's a bit niche and it's a bit left field, but for me, Antony is the most exciting signing of the summer if it happens. We're crying out for a right winger. We're crying out for a left-footed attacker that can go straight into the team. And look, I know it's all Eredivisie, but he's 22 years of age, Brazilian. I think we haven't actually had great records with Brazilians at United. So, I mean, don't start. People are shouting, Fred. We haven't actually had great records with Brazilians at Manchester United. I mean, Anderson's probably the best, isn't he? Somebody's screaming Raphael now, but still, no one's really ever grasped the opportunity. So I would like that deal to happen. We'll see what happens. I still, from what I know, and look, it's been confirmed anyway, so take everybody else's word, but I have been saying this for a while. We have been in talks with Antony for a while, at least 2 weeks, advanced talks, and the delay was always De Jong. Now, I think United might need to just go and do a deal before De Jong, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did go and do a deal before De Jong, because I know something's going to happen before Friday morning. I just don't know what it's going to be, and I don't think Eriksen on a free transfer is sufficient to mask 11 million quid going out. Nick says, the United Stand is such a good channel. The community is great, and it's the perfect place to keep up for all the up-to-date info. Thank you very much, Nick Warren. A very nice super chat there. I'm bored of constantly checking my phone to see if we've signed anyone. Keep up the good work. Love the channel, says Jeffy. Thank you. Well, I think we're all our own therapy, aren't we? Basically, that's the fact. We all help each other in relation to that. Somebody's just sent me a message saying that Antony has provided a green light to Man United and has now requested that Ajax negotiate with Manchester United. Slow sports news, mate. That happened 2 weeks ago. And I know that because nobody in the UK was reporting it when I said it on this channel. And I know that because it was coming from Brazil. And I know that because somebody is quite close to somebody who is very close to signing for United and wants to sign for United. And his name's Antony. So, yeah, look, Antony hasn't given the green light. That's not a breaking news. Like, Antony's desperate to join United and Ten Hag wants him at United. We've been negotiating with Ajax for a considerable amount of time, at least 2 weeks, and Antony has been wanting this move for a very long time. So go back and watch the video I did 2 weeks ago, because that's when Antony was... we were talking then. Man United and the player were talking then. Where we are, very quickly... where we are with Antony, where we are with De Jong, where we are with the centre-back we're going to sign, and where we are with Eriksen, is that all those players know we want them. And there has been discussions with those players' representatives. People need to understand how these transfers work. United just aren't pushing the button on anybody. They've done all the conversations. They've got the agreements with the players that they want to come, except for De Jong. I feel like United have got a pack of cards, and they're a good pack of cards. They just won't reveal them. And we could almost go De Jong, Antony, the centre-back, Eriksen, and we could just drop them all in a week. I don't think that will happen, but things are very advanced on the player sides with people like Antony and obviously Eriksen. He knows what we're going to offer him. He's got to make a mind up. I mean, De Jong is a difficult one because I still think he'd love to stay at Barcelona. Why do you think Erik Ten Hag has not gone for a CDM yet? Do you think he feels McTominay or Fred is good enough? Can't go through that again. Sacking. I mean, nothing would surprise me with McTominay and Fred. I think they have endurance and survivability. Look, you can't lie and hide from the fact that Mourinho liked McTominay, Solskjaer liked McTominay, Rangnick likes McTominay, Carrick likes McTominay, Sir Alex likes McTominay. The only problem is the fan base don't like McTominay because they can't see what it is he does in training. Like, if he started doing what Mourinho liked and Sir Alex liked and Carrick likes and Solskjaer liked and Rangnick liked, he must do something. I've always said that. He must do something in training amazing. He must be... I think in training, McTominay's probably like De Bruyne or something. He's like, absolutely dominates and bullies everybody. Scooby-Doo, get out my way, Sue. He must be brilliant in training because he's definitely not brilliant on the football pitch for Scotland or United. So, look, maybe he'll train and Ten Hag will be like, I love his attitude. I mean, he's got a great attitude. There's no doubt about that. He interviews well. He's a very likeable lad. But I think where these players, because they've got egos, don't understand is that most United fans, myself included, if I'm being critical of you, it's because you've been crap on the football pitch. I don't know you personally, most of you, and I don't hold any personal issue with you. I'm judging you on your performances in a Man United shirt that you are in control of. So if you don't like me or any other fan for saying you're crap, don't be crap. But I don't know. I mean, it would not surprise me if McTominay is playing in the midfield next to De Jong, or Fred is playing next to Jong, because they seem to have this survivability and they seem to be liked within the coaching staff, whoever it is. But absolutely, I would love us to buy a midfielder. Hi Mark, love United stand. We'll be here when we lift the trophy. Hopefully we get new players. Can't stand Harry Maguire another season, says Jared. And keep up the great work, Goldbridge. Love the community. What centre-back do you think we could bring in if Timber doesn't work, says Pedro. Well, I've got a few headlines to work through, but I will answer that one because I believe that the centre-back that we will go for will be Torres, Pau Torres, because that was the player we were always going for. It was either Timber or Torres, and if we're not getting Timber, I would have thought it'd be Torres, because Torres has got to move. I'd personally rather take Torres over Martinez. I know I'm in the minority again, but I don't have a problem with Pau Torres. I didn't have a problem with us getting Pau Torres a year ago. I just preferred Varane. I prefer Timber to Torres. I prefer Torres to Martinez, if I'm absolutely honest. But I'm not the manager, and I appreciate that most of our fan base loves Martinez. So I'd be very happy if we get him, but that's what I'd rather go for. I don't know why it's gone quiet on Pau Torres. If we get a centre-back, a Frenkie de Jong, Antony and Eriksen, do you think that's enough to make up ground on Chelsea, Spurs and Arsenal with the signings they're making? Says Nick. Centre-back, Frenkie de Jong, Antony and Eriksen. I mean, it will improve us a lot if somebody like Bruno and Rashford also has a good season. But Pedro says, keep up the great work, Goldbridge. Love the community. What centre-back do you think we could bring in if Timber doesn't work out? I've answered that one, haven't I? And Sebastian says, Mark, this is turning out to be a routine Glazeronomic summer. And which summer transfer season in the post-Sir Alex era would you rate as the worst in terms of lack of quality and quantity of new signings? Says Stephen Rossi. The Moyes one was shit, wasn't it? Didn't we just buy Fellaini? It was shit. It's not surprising that McTominay would look great in training, considering he's playing against United's midfield, says Jason. And how many deals we linked to are potentially held upon negotiating a price, excluding De Jong, says Ray. Well, we're negotiating a price. We were negotiating a price with Timber until Timber decided he wanted to stay at Ajax, which is apparently the story. We are negotiating a fee with Antony. We're not negotiating a fee with Eriksen because he's a free, and we're negotiating a fee with De Jong. So we're only working on 4 deals at the moment. There's an offer gone into Eriksen. We're working on De Jong with Barcelona. That's where most of our attention is. There's inquiries and discussions with Ajax about Antony and the centre-back. I don't know what we're doing with the centre-back at the moment. I don't know what we're doing with the centre-back. I wish I did. I don't know. Okay, let's go through some of the bits of news. I mean, this is one I gave you a little bit of a hint about earlier. Manchester United will listen to offers for Eric Bailly, Phil Jones and Axel Tuanzebe this summer as they press ahead with plans to revitalise their squad. We'll do well. I mean, Tuanzebe is a player I would buy if I was a club with about 15 million available and I wanted a centre-back. I think he fits the profile of a player that's, well worth a look at. Eric Bailly is an issue because of his wages, and I think United's price is going to be very high. Phil Jones, I'd give him away. He's on a massive contract on big wages, and when I say big wages, Phil Jones on anything over 30 grand a week is big wages. He's on about 80, I think. So yeah, it'd be very difficult to get rid of him. I did want to just touch on something very, very quickly. Anthony Martial. I wanted to do a live poll actually. Is Eriksen going to be a backup for Bruno? If yes, then we're going for De Jong. Why not just swap Donny van de Beek for Antony? Donny is being overlooked, says Sakin. No, I don't think he's going to be a backup for anybody. I think he's part of the first team plans. So I've just done a poll there. Anthony Martial, sell or keep? I just want to know what you think, because there was a story that came out after I'd done the morning show. I think it came in from Samuel Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News, and then, in fact, I can put it on the screen for you as well. Neil Custis again. I told you he's not been proven wrong, has he? Neil Custis actually. I will shout out when somebody probably deserves a little bit of credit, and I know it's the Sun, and I know some people don't like the Sun or Neil Custis, but he did say last night that United are in for Antony for 40 million quid. We're flying out to Amsterdam today. I don't know whether we flew out to Amsterdam, but we are in for Antony. And that 40 million quid got quoted by Rob Dawson as well. And it's come out in relation to a couple of other outlets in the UK. So he was ahead of the game and he had the right bit of information there. So give him a bit of credit. Due to Martial's huge wages, Manchester United are ready to listen to offers of £20 million for Martial. So look, 57% of you said that you would sell Martial. I'm going to stand firm on where I've always been. I'm a fan of Martial. There was a time where he was my favourite player at United with Rashford. I mean, that just seems like a different world. He has been shockingly bad for 18 months. He very clearly wants to leave the club, and if that's the case, you've got to move him on. But I still think if you can get him in the right mindset, in the right system, and look, you can't use the same excuse with Bruno and Rashford and not use it with Martial as well. Rashford has put it out there through his PR or whatever he uses that he doesn't feel like he's been coached properly for the last 3 years. Well, hello, Anthony Martial's an attacker, and I think he can have that excuse as well. So with the proper coaching and the right attitude, i.e. he wants to stay, I think Anthony Martial for 1 year, to get himself back in the shop window and enjoy his football again, I think there is an opportunity that it's almost like a loan. I see this as a loan. I don't think we're keeping Martial for the long term, and I don't think he should be looking to stay for the long term. I think this is a situation where nobody wants you, nobody's going to give you the wages, and we're not going to sell you for free. We have to get a fee for you, Antony, and you have to keep your wages. At the moment, we can't get the fee, and no one's going to pay you the wages. The only people who's going to pay you the wages is us, because you're under contract. Therefore, we're basically stuck with each other. But let's do it in an amicable, exciting way. And you are basically going to be the striker that competes with Ronaldo. Ronaldo can't play every game. You offer us something different. You're the only striker that can play with their back to goal for a start, other than Ronaldo. And you play with us for a year. You give it everything. And then in a year's time, you go. And we're happy to let you go. And if you decide you want to stay and we decide you want to stay, maybe we do a new, maybe we keep you. But let's not put any boundaries on this. Let's just say, effectively, instead of going on loan somewhere else and we've got to pay half your wages and you might not like it, like Sevilla and stuff, you stay here in familiar surroundings, you get your head down, we use you, we do play you, and next summer you leave. And that means we don't have to sign a striker. We're not going to win the league next year. We're not in the Champions League next year. And I think Martial could do a good job for us. So that's what I would do. But 59% of you say sell him. The trouble is with that, if you're getting me 40 million, I'm saying sell him. If you're getting me 30 million, I'm thinking maybe. If we're only getting 20 million, I'm like, you're having a laugh. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous return for a player in his mid-20s that we've invested probably 70, 80, 90 million on over his wages and transfer fee. I'd keep Martial the striker. Market is dry this year. If he's desperate to go, it's going to be on him to take a pay cut to make it happen, says Joshua. And I think Lissandro will surprise everyone. He was very good CDM, was moved to centre-back just to accommodate Gravenberch. I hope we buy someone like him, says Davuda. I think that's a bit deluded because we're not buying Martinez to play CDM. If we buy Martinez, we're buying him because we couldn't get Timber and Pau Torres. So we'll be buying him as a centre-back. But look, I appreciate as well, there's a lot of people in the chat saying get rid of him. Daz says Martial is washed. It's a bit desperate. But I agree with Joshua as well. The striker market is dry and we don't have an infinite amount of money, which is something else I wanted to bring back. And I apologise if, I know Adam spoke about this at 2 o'clock, but he's not me, and I really wanted to bring this into the show. So Rob Dawson said that Manchester United are working to a net spend budget of between 100 million and 150 million this summer. This is interesting because a net spend is not... A net spend is interesting because if the minimum net spend is £100 million, but you sell £50 million of players, that means you spend 150 because it's your net spend, isn't it? It's 150 minus 50 in sales means a net spend is 100 million. So if you don't understand what a net spend is, if I have £10 million to spend, but I've sold £5 million worth of players, my budget is 15 million, but my net spend is 10. Because it's 15 minus 5, isn't it? So, you always take your sales off your spend to get your net spend. So, if this is true, and the net spend is between 100 and 150 million, well, if we spent 150 million and we sold 50 million pounds worth of players, we've spent 200 million. If we spend 100 million, 150 million, and we sell 50 million pounds worth of players, then our net spend's 100 million. So there's an opportunity for United to push up to the budget that we've always wanted. And I think most of us want a budget of about 175. Now, it's devastating in one way. He started out well, but then was corrupted by Pogba, says Liban. Can Erik Ten Hag revitalise players like Bruno? And what is it about our culture that eventually cripples talented players? You need a shave, Mark. Cheers. I had a shave today, Jefferson, so I don't think I do. And did Liverpool help us with the Ronaldo transfer in such a short time? Couldn't have been us. Give a fix. Shout out. He was great. Best regards, mate. Best show. Says Fred the Red. I don't know what you're on about in relation to Ronaldo, but and I do think that Bruno can revitalise. Erik Ten Hag can revitalise Bruno, and I think we will see. I'll give you this now for free. Freebie. Free hit here. Mark, as good as all these names are, what's the point in signing players who don't want to come? Let's take the hit and buy good nobodies, says Andy Cheatham. Well, Antony does want to come. I understand with Timber and De Jong that there's clearly a bit of, good points. De Jong and Timber seem to be thinking it through, and Eriksen. So, we're obviously having to do a lot of persuading this summer, which shows you where the club is. But Antony wants to come. Let's sign him. But I think that one thing that's really disappointing when you look at that net spend thing below, if we had £50 million worth of sales, then our budget is we're going to spend somewhere between 150 and 200 million, so 175 million. But how do we raise 50 million quid? The most disappointing thing I've seen today in relation to sales is that Newcastle have bought Nick Pope from Burnley. So all these Dean Henderson fans, Newcastle would rather buy Nick Pope than Dean Henderson, which means Newcastle, with all their billions, think Nick Pope's a better goalkeeper than Dean Henderson. I actually don't disagree. I think Nick Pope's a good goalkeeper, and I think he probably is better than Dean Henderson. But I really did hope Newcastle were going to sign Dean Henderson, because that would have been a great move for him. I think he wanted it. I think most United fans wanted it, and it would have been at least £20 million into our budget. Instead, we're loaning him to Forest and paying his wages. It's really disappointing. And I tell you what, I'm sure Dean Henderson will do well at Forest, but if he is a bit disappointed that he didn't get the Newcastle move, you've only got one person to blame, Dean, and that's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Like, he did you over bad last summer. Bad. Like, keeping you in De Gea and thinking, I used to go mad about it. How can you have two goalkeepers of that quality kept at the club? How can you pay one goalkeeper 350 grand a week and the other one 140 grand a week? You can only bloody pick one. So, yeah, that's some money gone that we could have used. But, there it is. With Ten Hag's portfolio with rebuilding Ajax squad twice, showing as he improves players, do we go for established players or players with potential, says Ibrahim? A little bit of both. Look, ultimately, Ten Hag's got to get the players he wants. And they'll be different to what I want, they'll be different to what you want. But we've just got to see what he can produce. What will the likes of Bailly, Jones, Twansebi, Williams, Chong, Palestri, Ahmad, Fletchers? We expect Henderson to help the net spend, and Martial's situation is uncertain. Well, it's a great point from Mojo, because if we did sell Martial and we did sell Henderson, we'd have 50 million quid there. And I think those were the two players back in May that we saw were going to be the players to bulk up our transfer budget. And unfortunately, the cold harsh truth is, if we're going to generate any money, the two biggest assets we've got aren't going to generate any money. Henderson would be about 25 million and Martial would be about 30 million. So we'd have had 55 million there, and we're not getting any of it because I don't think anyone's going to buy Martial, and obviously Henderson's going on loan. So where are we going to generate some money from? And we're going to have to be a little bit creative, really. And what I mean by that is we're going to have to take 10 here, 10 there. I'm thinking Andres Pereira, 10. Tahith Chong, maybe 10. Maybe 5, maybe 10. That's 20. Brandon Williams, maybe another 10, 15. That's 30, 35. And then Twansebi, maybe another 10, 45. And then Eric Bailly, maybe another 10, 55. And, you have done it then. You've got 55 million there. So we can do it. We're just going to have to move a lot of players on for like 5, 10 million pounds, which we can do. We need to bloody start doing it, don't we? There's just let people take the bargains and we'll take the cash, really. That's what I would do. But we can't get any money for Lingard, Melton. We can't get any Lingard money for him. What else did I want to talk about before us just lapsed into there? We've done that. Oh, yeah, I do want to come to this as well. Frenkie de Jong is the first choice for Manchester United, and Christian Eriksen is viewed as an additional rather than an alternative option. Yeah, we know that. We know that as well. We know about that. Okay, I do want to touch on this one very quickly as well. I mean, this just completely... I only use this as an example, really. It just completely evidences why most of us are fed up with this Frenkie de Jong deal. So you've got United remain around 12 million short of Barcelona's 72 million asking price for Frenkie de Jong. That was from Hearst Class. And then you've got United remain hopeful of getting a deal over the line for de Jong despite protracted discussions with Barcelona from the Telegraph and James Ducker. And those came out this evening. And you're like, I'm sure I saw those updates a month ago. And we probably did. Because this deal just won't advance. It's like, there's literally nothing you can do to make the de Jong deal move forward other than deal agreed. Like, we can't have any more, this deal's really close, or it's getting closer, or the fees are not quite there. It's like, we've been here for like 9 weeks now, and it needs to reach a point where we can actually just move on. And it's not just about moving on from the de Jong deal, it's moving on to the other deals as well. This was quite interesting. Sources close. This is from Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News, who clearly has got sources close to Rashford because he talks about him quite a lot. He says sources close to Rashford have suggested he could play through the middle in a pre-season, as United's preference is to sign a flexible forward, ideally Ajax's Antony rather than a striker. I mean, look, it would be massively beneficial for Manchester United if Marcus Rashford could play through the middle. It really would, and I'm not going to say it's impossible because we've seen people like Ashley Young become fullbacks and Antonio Valencia become fullbacks. So things can happen that you don't think can happen. But I'll tell you what, Erik ten Hag's got a lot of work to do on Rashford anyway as a left-sided forward. If he's turning him into a centre forward, he's going to have to do a lot of work because Rashford cannot play with his back to goal. He's not particularly physical, and Rashford's main strength is pace. And look, if fast forwards were the things that sorted out top class centre backs, then we'd just see fast forwards. And the best strikers in the world aren't particularly fast. I mean, Lewandowski's not super fast. Ronaldo's not super fast. I know Haaland is and Mbappe is, but they've not just got pace. They've got other things to their game: positional sense, intelligence to make the right runs, link-up play. So, you know, I'd love... I mean, look, strings to the bow. At the moment, for me, Rashford can only play as a left-sided forward, and I think Sancho's better than him there. If he can also play as a centre-forward, then that means he can play in two positions, and I think that's something Rashford needs to do. Maybe that's why he's down the gym, I don't know, but yeah, it's a hard ask to say that Marcus Rashford is a centre-forward. And in pre-season, maybe he can do it. But can he do it in the Premier League? Can he do it in the Europa League? I don't know. The fact that we can't raise a 50 million from this squad of players, doesn't that show just how atrocious the player recruitment has been, says Jim. I think it's an absolute acknowledgement of crap recruitment. And I think this is what... can't get mixed up with all the names. Richard Arnold was on about at the weekend. You know, you look at the £1 billion spent and you can't see it when you go to Carrington Training Ground. And that's the problem. We have got... Before signings, we've got about 25 senior pros. And I would only trust a handful of them. So that means we've got 20 players that really you'd like to change. And we can't sell any of them. What does that say about Manchester United when there isn't any... I mean, if we had to do a fire sale tomorrow... This is the best way of looking at it. Let me just do this super chat from Ray. I'm touching on old ground and may have been resolved yet. Are we still owed money from Inter for Lukaku? Says Ray, probably. And surely the only way to move Martial is to offset wage with cut price, say 15 million, says Peter. Yeah, I know, and I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that, Peter. I think it's a lot of money, isn't it? But let me go back to this, because I know sales is really important, and I actually really, it makes me smile that this is the sort of community that we've got, that it's not just about sign this, sign that. You love the club and understand the club and the way football works enough to say we need to move players on. If we had a fire sale tomorrow, and that means we had to sell everybody, say we needed to raise 300 million quid tomorrow. Do you think we could do it? If everyone was for sale and we wanted a fair price for everybody, would there be clubs queuing up to take our players? And I mean any player. And look, I think someone would take Sancho off our hands. I think someone would take Bruno off our hands. I think someone would take Varane off our hands. I'm guarantee you someone would take Ronaldo off our hands. I think somebody would take De Gea. We might not get loads of money for these players, but they would take them. There would be takers for Rashford, let's be honest, whether you think that's right or not. And then you do start to go, well, look, I'm sure somebody would give us 20 million for Fred, maybe 20 million for McTominay. You know, you would get some money for people like Luke Shaw, and I'm sure someone would take Harry Maguire, but not for 80 million, not for 50 million. They'd probably give us 30. Lindelof again, you'd probably get 20 million for him. Wan-Bissaka, you'd probably get 20 million for him. But if we had to sell all our players tomorrow and we wanted fair prices and people were willing to give fair prices, we wouldn't get a lot of money for what we've spent on that squad. And I think the only player anyone would pay a good price for is probably Bruno and Sancho. They're probably the two players where you could get close to what you paid. 75 million for Sancho. We wouldn't probably get 75, but we would get I think we'd get 60. Only because last season, what he didn't have, I still think he's worth what we paid, but obviously he didn't have the best of seasons last year. And I think Bruno we paid about 50 for, and we'd get that about that back. But yeah, we you know, this is why we're struggling to sell players, and we've got 25 senior pros, and nobody would give us a fair price, I don't think, for most of them. We need more of a carte boost sort of sale to clear out the deadwood. And of course, Mojo, the problem is we've got owners who cannot understand football. So when we are looking to sell a player like Wan-Bissaka, and they say, well, he's a £50 million asset, and you said no one's going to give us that, well, we'll keep him then. But we'll never get £50 million for him. Well, we can't sell him for 20. We paid 50 for him, but we paid stupidly for him, and nobody will ever pay 50 million for him. So we have that to compete with as well. Even if somebody knocks on the door and says we'll give you 5 million for Pereira, United will go, no, he's listed as a 15 million pound asset. We've got to get close to that. So yeah, we don't like to do those sort of things. Do you think we'd potentially do a player swap, Martial for Timber, and obviously a small fee? Yeah, but it's not going to happen, Jack, is it? I like the idea. Somebody spoke about Benfica doing it with Darwin Núñez, but Benfica cannot afford 200 grand a week, and Ajax cannot afford 200 grand a week. And I don't think Martial would want to go and play in the Eredivisie or the Portuguese league. I think Martial wants to play in La Liga or in the Bundesliga or Serie A. I don't think he wants to play in any other league unless PSG wanted him. So, yeah, we can't swap Antony Martial for a player like Antony because Ajax cannot pay that amount of wages, and Martial wouldn't want to go there. So, you know, that's why Daniel Farr's right. Swaps are super rare. They really are, and we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle to move players on, and we're going to have to move a lot of players on for smaller prices to get that budget up. But if we've got 175 million, you spend 70 on De Jong, which leaves you with 75 million left. Yeah. No, it leaves you with 100 million left. You spend 45 on Antony, which leaves you with 55. And then I think you buy a centre-back for about 35 and you buy a midfielder for 20. And I think, I don't know what the maths would be, but I still think you can get De Jong, Antony, a centre-back, Eriksen, and a Lema, an Enzo Fernandez or a Sangari, and come in at around 175 million, which is 125 million net spend if you sell 50. And that's what we should be looking to do. And that would be the summer where I would go, all right, it's not perfect, but it's about as good as you could have done. I'll give you a 9 out of 10 for that. If we just get De Jong, Antony, a centre-back and Eriksen, I'm giving it a 7 because we needed 2 midfielders. But we can do it. We can get De Jong, Antony, a centre-back, Eriksen and a midfielder if you go for a Lema, a Sangari or an Enzo Fernandez, because they're all around 20 million quid, and that's what we should be looking to do. And it is very achievable, but it just depends what Ten Hag wants. And we keep hearing he wants 2 midfielders, but we never hear who the other midfielder is. Alan Cruz, thank you very much for the super chat there. We need more of a cart beat. I've done that from Mojo. Mark, we already have Jesus, Rafinha, Vieira, who's already better than Bruno. You better crack on and sign players, says Zane. Zane, you're Arteta out. That's all I need to say to you. Well, and if you're not Arteta out, you've absolutely the biggest hypocrite ever. But, you know, Arsenal are having a good window. Spurs on paper, they've not got a lot of them done yet. Spurs on paper are having a good window. Our first job is to try and finish above Arsenal and Spurs next year. Zane is right. They're our rival next year. Not Liverpool, not Man City, and probably not Chelsea. When we sell players, maybe we need... And remember, Arsenal are in the Europa League as well. So all this, let's get 4th place and win the Europa, that's exactly what Arsenal want. When we sell players, maybe we need to just take reduced fees, knowing if we add the save wages to it, it increases the figure in the pot, says Glenn. Yeah, maybe. Very interesting to see what's going to happen. Very interesting to see. Anyway, look, as yet, again, I just want to say a big shout out to everyone in the chat. I've thoroughly enjoyed the show. I'm loving the 8 o'clock shows. Really good conversations. Lots of people very engaged in what they're doing. And I'm very, very interested to see what's going to happen in the next 48 hours, because I cannot believe a club would let themselves take dividends out before we've even done any transfer business. And look, I was speaking to somebody a couple of hours ago about the Antony thing and how advanced it is and the conversations that we're having, and we all know that now. But I was told don't rule out that Antony could be the first transfer, and I said that this morning. Antony, pretty good info on it, and I know James Ducker said that we won't do any deals before De Jong. I still think we might do Antony before Friday, because it doesn't look like De Jong's going to get done before Friday, and I don't see the problem with why is it a problem to sign Antony before De Jong? And I think that would be I personally think Antony would bring more buzz than De Jong anyway, in an excitement way. I mean, De Jong's the better player, of course he is, but Antony would be quite a quick deal, and we'd go, oh, we can do it. Whereas with De Jong, we're going to go, fucking hell, finally we've done it. So let's just see on that one. I think it's going to be a very interesting couple of 48 hours. One way or another it will be, because if they do nothing, they're going to get pelters on Friday. Do you think we will get both Antony and De Jong? I do, Ackle, I do. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Thanks to all the new members who've joined tonight. You can do that via the join button. And don't forget Boohoo Man. I'm wearing my Boohoo Man active tracksuit. It has cooled down a little bit, but it's been really hot today. I've had my shorts and t-shirt on. Boohoo Man, Goldbridge active Boohoo Man. Links in the chat, so you can get 40% off. Check out what they've got. You can hold your camera up to your phone. You can hold your camera up to the screen from your phone and scan the QR code, or go through the link in the description. Much love to you all. Really appreciate it. I know it's difficult, but look, these are therapy sessions as well. Take care, everyone. And look, you know what? I'm like a coiled spring. I'm ready to go live at 11 o'clock tonight if something good happens. But I'm not going to go live at 11 o'clock because Neil Custis says we might be flying to Amsterdam. I know it was a development, but that's a morning show story. I mean a real firm development. And then we will get them at some point. We will get them. And I'm excited for that, because we haven't done enough of these late night streams or 6 o'clock in the afternoon streams, or 1 o'clock when something happens. We've not done any impromptu streams yet, and I'm surprised. It's 21st of June and all our streams have been 10 a.m, 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. That shows you we're not doing anything, because, you know, nothing's happening. Thanks for watching. Check out Boohoo Man, and I'll speak to you in a bit.